Ms. Harris? Ms. Cavanis? Mr. Jurdy?
Here.
And Mr. Anderson?
Here.
All present. Thank you.
First order of business was the approval of the November 17th, 2022 meeting minutes.
Move to approve.
We have a motion and a second. Do we need a roll call vote on it?
You could do all in favor.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Guests here today for presentation and discussion regarding the proposed fiscal year June 30, 2023 audit plan.
Welcome, Ashley and Rage. How are you doing?
Good. How are you? Can you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. Did you want me to pull up the presentation on our end, or was that something you guys wanted to?
Oh, you're welcome to share your screen.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
You're welcome to share your screen.
Okay. Okay. So we prepared just a little presentation to go over the summary. This is the second year we've done a scope of services to go over our audit plan for this year. This gives us an opportunity for you as the audit committee to have input on the audit plan for the current year. I wanted to introduce myself. I'm Ashley Green. I'm the audit partner on the engagement, and Rage Sullivan has joined me today. He's the audit senior on the engagement. I just kind of mentioned it gives us the opportunity to discuss any information that has come up during the year that you want us to take a look at or have special consideration of. This is where it kind of opens up that discussion. So I'll go over the engagement team, kind of our strategy, proposed timeline, what reports we'll be issuing, what current pronouncements are kind of out there, and then if there's any other questions as well. So our engagement team, as I mentioned, myself and Rage, we always have a technical reviewer. So that's another partner within the firm who reviews the entire engagement from a kind of third-party perspective, just an external review, making sure that we're doing everything in compliance with our laws and regulations, as well as reviewing your financial report, if there's any improvements that can be made from that view as well. We also have 3 other engagement staff with us on the engagement as well. And then our audit objectives, as always, we as the auditors are responsible for reporting on the financial statements themselves. We kind of focus the services on 3 different levels. Of course, the public and MSARA, the independent auditor opinion, provides that reasonable assurance that the financial statements released by MSARA are in fact accurate. But it also assists the audit committee and board of retirement in discharging their fiduciary responsibilities. And again, for management, there's observations that we have or any improvements on financial reporting or any internal control issues that arise. We bring those to management's attention. So I always like to, talk about our assurance. Of course, these are your financial statements, which you guys prepare each year and represent and assert that the financial information is fairly presented in accordance with GAAP. And then our responsibility as independent auditors is to conduct the engagement in accordance to our standards and render written opinions as to whether those assertions and representations are in fact accurate. We follow 2 standards, which are the government auditing standards, as well as the AICPA auditing standards. So kind of in summary, we prepared this kind of strategy. We kind of break out the audit in different phases. So currently right now we're in the planning phase, where we start to perform our risk assessments and procedures. Once we receive financial information and other items, we'll determine our materiality levels, analytic review, identify if any changes have changed within your operating environment, through inquiries, and determine what our extent of procedures will be. Of course, having this meeting and presenting our scope of services. In our fieldwork phase, we kind of also segregate those because we focus specifically on our internal control testing. That includes the participant testing that we do for actives, retirees, terminated. We also do testing specifically to your employers, as well as perform walkthroughs within the organization on significant audit areas related to contributions, benefit payments, investments, to ensure that those controls are still being operating effectively. And then we'll reevaluate from there if there's any concerns about controls. If there were no significant concerns, we can still perform our testing substantively. And so our second phase relates more to the financial statements and those. So once the trial balance is ready, we focus on performing our substantive testing. So that goes over the entire financial statements completely, sending confirmations to any cash bank representatives, investment custodian. And so we kind of do a three-way reconciliation where we reconcile your investment account to what MSAR is saying it has, to what the custodian is reporting, as well as what the manager is reporting, just to ensure that they are all the same value. Or if there is a delay or a lag, that is explained and it's not within a significant difference to be reported. And if any differences do arise, we do bring them up to management so that they can evaluate it if there is a difference. And then throughout field work, we do communicate with management, let them know the progress of our work, as well as if there are any discussion items, proposed adjustments, any findings that we find that we need to bring up to management, just so we can get more clarification. And then we'll end up completing our field work. Of course, completing the field work doesn't mean everything is done. We always have procedures that have to happen after related to the GASB 67 work. Once that report is available, and we also do assist with drafting the financial statements. So our completion phase kind of compiles all the procedures after we've done all of our substantive work in reviewing reports related to the financial statements, as well as assisting management with drafting the financial reports and obtaining legal letters. So overall, that's kind of a big summary of the audit plan and the coordination of the audit as it goes throughout. I kind of highlighted here the timeline of everything that I kind of explained. We're here today to kick off the meeting. We population request, and right now we have our audit fieldwork set for September 11th. And currently, it's requested from management that we come on site again this year. Since COVID last year, we came back on site, and management really liked that. And so we have set aside the week of September 11th to come on site. And then throughout, as I mentioned, October, we kind of wrap up things, and we do issue the reports in draft form to the audit committee. And then we're always available for the board presentation if needed when that occurs in December. So currently a report's expected to be issued. As I mentioned, we do follow government auditing standards, and all of these three reports are required by those standards. Our independent auditor's report is the opinion that is within your financial statements. There's I think it's now 3-page letter that's within your financial statements. Used to be 2, but they added more language last year. And then the required communication to the board, that letter is always separate. We had submit this letter because we do work with management on a day-to-day basis. So this letter is to communicate to you guys if there was anything that arisen during our audit that we should make you aware of, any significant changes in accounting pronouncements, or if we had disagreements with management, proposed adjustments. All that information will be discussed in there. Of course, if anything serious in nature came up, we wouldn't wait till the end of the audit to let you know. If there was a major change in our audit plan, we would communicate that to the audit committee. If it was a significant change in the audit plan or anything specifically fraud or concern related, that would be communicated separately before the end of the audit. Our report on internal control or financial reporting. This is another report that basically will tell you, again, if there were any significant deficiencies, material weaknesses related to your financial statements. And then our last report is the agreed upon conditions report. We always call this a management letter. It's more just something that didn't rise to a level of significance in regards to financial reporting. So like last year, there was a recommendation on password requirements that was rolled forward in relation to the pension system. So we still have that recommendation outstanding, which we'll follow up again on this year. And then another recommendation we had in the prior year was related to the review of journal entries and reconciliations that are performed. Again, that recommendation was rolled forward from the prior year. They didn't fully get it implemented in the prior year, but in management's response last year, it would be something that would be addressed this year. So we would again look at those controls around journal entries and make sure that that has been resolved as well. In regards to current accounting pronouncements, GASB is always busy. They're all the way up to 102 now. So the current ones that are out, we kind of put a statement on if this statement was going to affect the financial statements or not. So in related to these 91, 93, and 94, it doesn't apply currently to MSARA. And then the one that currently is being evaluated is the subscription-based information technology arrangements. And because MSARA does use the pension gold and information technology programs, this one will need to be evaluated for the potential impact on implementation. This is similar to the leases and how it was implemented, just improving disclosures on those arrangements. And then, of course, an omnibus GASB, this kind of addresses smaller issues related to a multitude of GASB statements that were implemented. And future year accounting pronouncements, this is in regards to accounting changes and errors. So if there were any to be reported next year, they're implementing more information on addressing how accounting changes of errors are being implemented. And then in regards to compensated absences, MCER will need to evaluate if this has an effect on the financial statements based on MCER's employees or whatnot. But overall, that's everything that we had that we wanted to present to you today. Are there any specific questions about the audit plan or anything else that you want to go into more detail on?
Committee members or staff, any questions or comments for Ashley and Gage? Gage? I'm not seeing any questions or comments at this time. Thank you very much for your time and for your presentation. We look forward to the engagement.
Thank you.
I guess I had one maybe question for the committee. Last year, there was additional review of some VCP retirees. Does the committee have any interest in looking at some of that again with upcoming changes we may have? I don't know that they're necessarily going to be done I don't know the exact status of the corrections happening within the month of June here, but would there be anything for additional review related to that?
The board did ask last year that the audit firm take a look at a sampling of our corrections. I don't believe there's any reason that that specific request would go forward unless the board wishes to have a specific subset of the calculations reviewed be some of those correction items. We have not really done any corrections in the past year. We've done, I think, 12 now in this entire year since May of last year. So we don't have a lot of current activity for them to look at, and we haven't received any information from the IRS yet on our new applications. Certainly they could look at some of the calculations that were done in the previous years if the board still, or the committee still felt that it was relevant that they wanted it to look at, but there weren't really any concerns raised, or it would have been mentioned in last year's audit report and probably a recommendation to continue reviewing that. So there weren't any concerns raised last year with the review they did of those corrections.
Is this for our education?
This being the audit report?
No, looking at retirees or future retirees?
Generally, the audit committee, if they have specific areas of concern, or if we had, let's say, a significant change in how certain things were being handled, the audit committee may ask the auditors to review certain aspects. I know when I was with a system, or the system went to a new pension administration system shortly before I went there. Their audit committee asked that the auditors take a look at the conversion data to make sure that things were proceeding correctly, and to redo, help them with review of some of the work, because they actually operated without a functioning pension system for like 6 months at least. So there was work to review those manual things and have them redone within the pension system. But absent a really big change like that, there probably isn't a need for the board to direct the audit firm unless you have a specific area of concern. Certainly the benefit project was new, and the committee did ask Brown Armstrong to look at some of those correction recalculations just to make sure that everything seemed in line with expectations, and the recalculations didn't raise any red flags. I believe they were able to come to the same conclusions as far as recreating the calculation of what the members' benefit would be. So I don't have any significant concerns there. I don't know if there are any areas of concern that you as the committee may have that you would like to, the auditors to address. But Generally, no, unless you have a specific concern and want a little extra focus on that. The typical areas of review are standardized every year. They look at contributions coming in, they do sampling of retirees, they do confirmation letters with both our managers and some of our membership, and all of those things occur every single time, although the focus of our auditor may shift a little bit from year to year, so they're checking some different areas of our operations. So ultimately, over a several-year cycle, they're looking at everything we do. And if I have anything incorrect there, feel free to jump in and correct me, Ashley or Rage.
No, everything that you said is true. And last year we didn't have any specific findings or recommendations based on the testing work that we did do. And as always, we do focus, like this year, because we did have a subset that was the VCP, we would again now refocus to new retirees more than the older ones, because those are currently reflective of your current procedures in that aspect. So, like for example, this year we'll test 30 new retirees and we'll only test 15 of your older ones. And that's where we make sure that you're still applying cost of living adjustments to them correctly and whatnot.
Don't want to make work. We've got plenty.
I think Doris stated it very accurately, that a lot of the variables that caused us to kind of select a subset of people last year are just no longer applicable. I don't know how the other committee members feel, but I think just the standard selection of a sample by Brown Armstrong would be fine.
Great. So this is essentially a receive and file absent any direction from the committee. So without that, we can just move on to the next item.
So I just have a question, and this probably is not related to the work of the auditors, but I'll just ask it, just in case it could be. So as I understand it, there's been some changes and reforms to the way that people can purchase, or not purchase, but cash out vacation time. So there's a cap on the amount of vacation time that someone can cash out each year that's pensionable. And that is not one of the items that our actuaries are actually including in their calculation as the cost of the plan. Is there any aspect of understanding the cost to the plan related to people cashing out unspent vacation time? In particular, essentially, there's a cap. So if someone's strategic in trying to increase their pension, they would be they'd bank as much as they're allowed into vacation time, and then they would cash out the maximum per the contract in their last 3 years of employment, which would elevate by some amount their last 3 years of salary. And that, as I understand it, is not captured. There's no cost associated with that that's included into the actuary's estimation for how much people should be putting into the plan.
There's not a separate assumption for that in the actuarial plan. You are correct. Due to partly our error correction project that we've done with our benefit review and the Alameda decision, our processes here have changed such that the maximum amount of vacation cash out that we will recognize as pensionable income is limited to the amount of quote unquote, let's call it a normal vacation cash out as specified in the MOU for the labor group. That varies between 40, 60, or 80 hours depending on the labor group. So the maximum that an employee could cash out and have treated as pensionable wage would be 80 hours or one extra pay period of wages in a rolling year. When we calculate the 3-year average salary, we ensure that they can't have more than 3 vacation cash out payments due to timing. You used to be able to arrange to have 4 because of the way you could do one at the beginning and one at the end of the period and time it such that you would have an extra vacation cash out. While there is no separate actuarial assumption for that, they do get the information that there is pay that was pensionable, and it becomes part of that employee's calculation of the final average salary that our actuary uses for projection of benefits. I don't know if there's anything material there that you would suggest looking at, or because you wouldn't be establishing the cost associated to the plan with that, but I'd be interested in hearing any comments you have on that topic.
You being Brown Armstrong.
Yes, I should say you being Brown Armstrong.
I thought it was us.
I was going to ask that as well. So usually when we test our new retirees, that's when we'll review the final average salary information. So other than our current review that we do on new retirees and recalculating their benefit, we don't look at any extent further. But from my understanding, you know, how you just explained how it impacts the actuarial, that's my understanding as well, because they have the information of what their current final average salary is extracted from the system, and until that member is retired, and you do all of your auditing of that member.
Yeah, I mean, if someone is in a bargaining group that has 80 hours that's pensionable that can be cashed out in any 1 year, it would inflate someone's salary in their last 3 years if they were strategic of almost 4%, above and beyond what the plan is assuming their pension is going to cost. I'm just always fishing around, like, why does the plan cost us more than we all think it's going to cost? We have a bunch of intelligent, smart people. We've been hiring actuaries for years. Everybody's been looking at this plan, and yet it always costs more than we think. And there's got to be some reasons for it.
I actually have a theory on that. I would be happy to discuss with you outside of this meeting, because it's a little convoluted. We might need a beer to go with that discussion. Yes, I understand your concerns, because you look at our plan, you think, oh my God, the cost of this has increased, you know, threefold or something over the last, 20 years or whatever it might be. And I have my whole own ideas about, why it seems like we don't live up to the actuarial expectations, or our experience diverges so much from their assumptions. But that's a question for another day, or at least a discussion for another day.
Come on now, Doris, we're going to want to hear this.
Okay, so the short answer is, the question I raised is not something really germane to your contract. Thanks.
It would seem, though, that the county's auditors could be directed to audit payroll to determine that as well. Is there any further discussion from the committee members? We'd like to set a date for November for your kind of the wrap-up before the board receives the audit. Is there?
I have the calendar in front of me. We have the regular Board of Retirement meeting scheduled for Wednesday, November 15th. November can be a little bit of a tight time frame to fit things in. The week before that, the 7th through the 10th is Sackers, which many trustees may attempt to attend, I don't know. And of course, the week following that, we have the Thanksgiving holiday. Also the 10th, the day on which Sackers ends, is the Veterans holiday. So if it's not disagreeable, I might suggest, even though I swore I wouldn't probably do that, again, is tack this on immediately following the November 15th meeting. So the committee could receive the report in December and recommend it be presented to the full board at the December meeting. However, we do have other dates in there that we can look at. It does not have to be a Wednesday. And I'm open to whatever works for Brown Armstrong and for the committee.
It's really hard for me with my cruddy back to sit this long.
I'm wondering also from Brown Armstrong, just with the other engagements that you have with the work products, the timing of when you would create work products and the amount of time that's needed between then and when we would agendize it for the full board of retirement, is there a window in which you would like to meet with us?
Yeah, so I prepared the critical dates when shared them with Robert. So we kind of back into that date, kind of how Doris just explained. So our projection of having the draft report ready for you guys to review is the end of the week prior, November 10th. So we would be ready to discuss anything that week of the 13th, anything, obviously prior to Thanksgiving. So we're flexible on the dates from that aspect.
What's the pleasure of the committee members? I know, Jerry, you would prefer not to have a long day.
Absolutely. Thursday, the 9th doesn't have anything on it, just on the calendar.
I think we're looking after the 10th.
Board of Super, after the 10th, okay.
Anytime the week of the 13th, even the 20 or 21st leading up to
No.
Thanksgiving. I know a lot of people take extra
No.
time off there. I don't know how anybody feels about the week following Thanksgiving, starting the 27th. But we would want to wrap it up, and it looks like we should have several dates to choose from, whether it's the week of the 13th.
How would the morning of Monday, the 13th work for people?
Could do that. Yep.
The morning of Monday, the 13th
Yeah.
at 9 a.m., 8:30. Do you have any preferences for the board or from Brown Armstrong?
You'll just have kind of, we can try to make that work. Depending on how many days the board needs to review the drafts. We can try to get it to you guys that Thursday, so that you could have it to review.
Because if you give it to us on the 10th, they may not have a chance to read it all and be ready to have a board or a committee meeting on it on the morning of the 13th, because there's not a lot of time frame there. Is it possible we could look later in that week? Does anybody have a problem with perhaps Thursday or Friday of that week?
So my preference, if it's not Monday, that we do it on Friday.
If not Monday, do it Friday.
What's the date on Friday?
17th?
17th.
17th?
November 17th.
Okay, I could do that.
Does that work for Brown Armstrong?
Yeah.
Okay, so the morning of November 17th?
Well, for clarification, we're going to have a board of retirement on the morning of the 15th.
Correct. You're going to have a board of retirement meeting on Wednesday, the 15th, and we would have an audit committee meeting on Friday, the 17th.
Could we make it 1 o'clock on Friday?
I don't have a problem with 1 o'clock. Does anyone else have an issue with the 1 p.m. meeting on Friday?
Because I'll be in Fort Bragg Wednesday night and Thursday. I'd rather not come back Friday morning.
Would that be at King's Court or here?
We could do it at King's Court. It doesn't need to be here. And the auditors would likely attend that one virtually. And then if necessary, they could attend in person at the December board meeting where the final report is presented, although that could also be done remotely. I don't think there's a need to have them here because we're not going to have any problems. We always have a good audit.
Confidence, I love that.
Okay, so I'll plan that for 1 p.m. on Friday, November 17th.
Great. Is there anything else from any of the committee members? Are you ready for adjournment?
I believe we can move to adjourn.
Let's adjourn the meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ashley
Yes.
and
Thank
Rach.
you. Great
Yes.
seeing you guys all.
Thank you.
Thank you.